Welcome to Boss Up, where we talk about where you can start, grow, and sustain your business. I'm your host, Nicole Jones. I'm excited to have you guys here again to talk about business and all things great and how you can sustain your business. I have a special guest with me, Deatrice Goutreau, and she is going to talk about the operations piece of the business and how you can sustain it in that way, and also talk about some fun, exciting things that she is doing outside of operations that I think you guys will truly benefit from. Deatrice, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nicole, for having me. Thank you.
I'm excited to have you here today because one of the key things that we always talk about in business is how to start your business, how to grow your business. But one of the things that helps sustain the business is operations piece. And you are in the consulting world when it comes to operations and how to, go through the different toll gates and methodologies in terms of project management or launching a project or operations. So I'm excited to have you talk more about that, but also to talk about some fun things that you have going on outside of operations, which I think is important to talk about.
Excited to talk about all those things. Operations is key, especially to the day-to-day. To your point, we talk often about, what do I do to start up? And we focus on all those startup issues. I need a website, I need business cards, I need that whole checklist. And oftentimes we don't consider what does it take for me to sustain day to day.
Yes.
For those of us who work full-time jobs and are entrepreneurs on the side, or trying to navigate both, those things are essential because you're in your 9 to 5 and you're engrossed and you've got things going on, but your business still has to run. If you're like me, you are the business. You're all those roles. So there's a checklist there too. You want to make sure, that you set up your start time. You've got office hours. You have ways for people to contact you. You have someone monitoring, whether it's email or phone or social media. You want to make sure you're monitoring those accounts,
Yeah, you got to wear a lot of hats.
You wear all those hats.
Before we get too deep into wearing all the hats and talking about all those fun things you just talked about, because I'm sure people are at the edge of their seats like, oh my gosh, she just listed off like 1,000 things I didn't even think about for my business.
Right, and that's the thing, we don't think about it.
Could you share more about yourself? Like, where are you in your business and your passions and your 9 to 5?
I am Deatrice Goutreau. By day, I am a business agility advisor. I do consulting. I have my own consulting business on the side. I do still have a regular 9 to 5 as well. I come from a small rural area in Louisiana. It's called Gramercy, Louisiana. Born and raised, grew up there. It's about 30 miles outside of New Orleans. Came to Atlanta on a whim, and I have been here ever since. I'm a peach now. I tell people I've been here long enough.
Pretty much.
That I'm a peach now. So.
Did you get here before Olympics or after Olympics, 96?
Before.
Before, so you are a peach.
I am a peach.
You are definitely a peach.
I'm a peach.
I love that. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
So I just want to give people a feel like who you are, what your background is. So that's helpful to understand like what waters that you're navigating in terms of your business and consulting. So
yeah, consulting sort of fell in my lap actually. I was project managing every day. I got tired of the day-to-day managing schedules, managing people, managing other people's millions of dollars.
Yep.
And so I decided I want to make some of those millions myself. So let's take some of the things I've learned from my day-to-day, marry that with the education that I have, and then coupling those two together, what do I do to branch off on my own? The scariest part is just taking the first step.
Yep.
And that's one of the things I try to encourage folks to do. It's like, be brave enough to take the first step, show up for yourself. You show up for an organization every single day, and you put in your blood, sweat, and tears there. Yeah. Do that for yourself.
Exactly.
And it's rewarding. It's hard. There are days when you want to throw in the towel. You do shed some tears.
Yes. Yes.
But it's rewarding when you're investing your time, your energy, your talent in yourself.
Yes. Yes.
And at the same time, you're serving others as well.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
Which is a big piece of
and that's a big piece
everything.
of it. You
Yep.
have to, it has to be something you want to do, something you're passionate about. That makes wearing all of those hats we talked about a few minutes ago worthy. You're worth wearing all those hats. You don't mind, sweeping the floor because it's your floor you're sweeping,
Yep. Yep.
If somebody in your 9 to 5 actually sweep the floor and, you're a project manager, you'll probably look at them crazy.
Look at them sideways. Like,
Exactly,
what?
like what? But when you're investing in yourself and you're trying to build and grow something that you're passionate about, you don't mind doing whatever it takes. At least you shouldn't mind doing whatever it takes to get you to whatever your destination is.
Yes.
And I always say, I never arrive to the destination because the milestone continuously move, which makes the journey so fulfilling.
Yes.
And that's the part that I tell people, take a moment, enjoy the journey, because there's learning for yourself in
Yes.
that journey as well.
Yes, no, that's really critical and key
Yeah.
to the process, because like you said, the milestone is ever evolving, if you will, because once you hit one milestone,
Right.
there's another one right behind it that you still need to crush. And I think
Exactly.
that's the whole purpose of being a boss. Like, the business never stops. If your intent is to actually continue to run your business for eternity and have life even after you're no longer here, the idea is that you're able to sustain it in such a way that you continue to evolve as a business and find the ways to recreate or redefine what that milestone looks like for your company.
Exactly. And to you want your business to outlive you.
Yeah.
If you have family, you have kids, you'd like to be able to leave that legacy and have them continue on. So it's worth putting the time and effort in. That's why, to your point, to go back to what you asked earlier, the operations of that is so essential. You can't work your normal 9 to 5 all day
Yeah.
and leave your stuff unattended. Now you have to balance that too, because you are on somebody else's time clock. But you need to make sure you have checks and balances in place so that your day-to-day operations continue to grow. You and I was sitting over there chatting before we came on set, and I just happened to realize, something was faltered on my website.
Yeah.
To your business never stops, right? So I'm texting my web guy saying, hey, what's happening on my website? This video is not working.
Yeah.
You have to be, if you don't have people watching those things for you, you have to be in tune. That was a fault of mine because I should have known that before I pulled it up to show you. But
It's okay, mistakes. It's learning lessons.
You learn and you grow from those learnings, and
Yeah.
those are the type things, but you have to make sure you do have checks and balances in place for your day-to-day. Am I replying to my audience? Do I have customer service that I'm providing to the people who are buying whatever it is that I'm selling
Yeah.
or offering a service to them? Am I paying attention to that? Am I responding to emails or direct messages in a timely manner? Set some SLAs, make sure your audience.
Explain what SLAs are.
SLA.
In
Sorry.
project management world,
I'm
we use a
talking to
lot
her
of terms.
and she's a project manager. So, SLAs are, oh God, what's the acronym? So what it means is, I'm gonna tell you in a minute what the acronym actually stands for, but what it means is you have a certain amount of time that you're going to respond if an incident occurs. Service level agreement, that's what it. So SLAs are service level agreements. And so those are the arrangements that you make to your audience, to your customers, that you're going to act in a certain time according to a certain event. So if a customer email you about something, you want them to understand that I'm going to respond to you within 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah.
So I've just told you, and you want to automate that. There are lots of tools that you can use now to automate those emails where they're not manual. It takes a lot for the setup. That's was so grueling for me. I hated that part.
Yep.
But once it was set up, it's like, now I know when emails come in, people get a response and they're automated, and everybody knows they're automated. We all using the same tools. However, if I say to you, I'm going to respond in 24 to 48 hours, you best believe I'll respond to you in 24 to 48 hours.
Exactly.
So those are the type of things that I mean when I say you have to have your day-to-day set up to make sure that you are functioning as a business while
Exactly.
you're earning money at another place of employment.
Exactly.
Today, we're gonna be making a twice baked potato and potato skins.
Hey, Dad. I need your help asking Jessica to prom.
Of course. Love is like the ocean. You have to tread the
Oh,
waters.
Dad. That's not the kind of help I needed. Hey, Jessica. Will you go to prom with me?
Yes.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care can't wait to share their first with you.
Looking at those areas of how you became who you became, and then looking at what were all the influxes that interfered with all of the stuff. We don't like to do that. That's too much work, Selena. Sometimes you have to take it in small pieces, in small fragments. You can't just run through it and say, okay, let's merrily do this work. It'll be fun. No, it's not fun work. It's painful. But we have to do it to get through it.
I think one key thing to call out here is that, Deatrice, you're coming from a point of being a 9-to-5er and working your businesses on the side. So I want those who are watching, if you just tuned in, to keep that lens in your mind in terms of what we're discussing in terms of operations, because what you just said I think is really important. The automation piece, the workflows that you have to put into your business, which is a part of the overall scheme of operations.
Right.
That if you are a solopreneur, or you just have a few people that you hire from Fiverr or different outlets and different gigs to help and support you from a graphics design standpoint, that operations, it feeds into literally all parts of your business. If you've watched some of our past shows, if you guys have watched some of our past shows, we've had someone from media production, we've had people from a tea company here in Atlanta. We've talked about just how to sustain the business and how they got started in those different industries. But believe it or not, operations also feeds into all those different industries that we've already talked about.
It does.
So I think that's important that you mentioned that the workflows and automations to help you even as a solopreneur.
Something as simple as branding
Yeah.
helps you tremendously, right? That's a part of our startup checklist, branding. But what we don't do from a branding perspective is create templates, right? I learned this from The Shark.
Yes.
I don't even watch that show. I just happened to be checking it out. But you take your branding and create templates for yourself.
Yep.
They're repeatable processes.
Yep.
Back to the workflows, right?
Yep.
You now have established repeatable processes that you can leverage, saves you times, provide efficiencies, and so you create those templates for yourself. So whether it's an email template, a newsletter template, just a overall letterhead template. I don't know if people actually mail letters anymore, but and now when I'm responding to an email or I'm responding to someone who messaged me on Instagram or Facebook, my messaging always looks the same,
Yeah.
right? Because I have created those templates that will provide me an opportunity to show some consistency
Yep.
in when I'm showing up. I'm showing up as the same all the time.
Exactly.
So you establish your workflows up front. You know how those things are going to flow in each of those phases. You know what's going to happen. You have a checklist for each phase, and then you execute. Inspect along the way.
Yep.
Because if something's going to change, it's work, right? And I work in technology, so things change every day,
All the time.
every hour almost. So in each of those workflows, you have checks and balances when you've had enough time, for myself, for instance, I might evaluate my processes every 90 days because I'm still growing.
Yes.
Right. So I'm evaluating my processes every 90 days to see where I can offer more efficiencies, where I can provide sustainability long term. Because again, I wear all hats in the organization. I actually do have 2 people who help me. But even with that, I'm directing those. So you're quarterbacking these plays all the time. But you're not just quarterbacking, right?
Yep.
You're calling the plays from up above. You're sending them down to the sideline.
Yep.
And you're executing them all at the same time. So,
Yep.
But in the end, the value that you get back from that is so amazing. You can sit back, for me, I can sit back and have a glass of wine and appreciate, that I've invested that time and effort in something that I'm trying to grow, not just for myself, but to leave as a legacy for those that come behind me and my family.
Yes, I love that. You're a woman after my own heart. Project management is like my happy place. So my brain is just wired. This sounds like the same way that yours is in terms of organization, structure, being able to set up those strategies and those systems and workflows in place. I just live for that all day.
Systems is key too. I tell people all the time, when you're looking at your landscape, look at it from in a whole systems point of view and not siloed. One of the things we do is we look at small parts or individual parts of the organization, right? And you have to make decisions based on what I refer to as systems thinking. If I make this change in this small area, what are the impacts in other areas of my organization?
Exactly.
And are those good or bad? And so making decisions in silos, I strongly suggest, hey, maybe widen the lens just a little bit and start to look at other aspects. Look at the whole and see, if I make a change here, is it going to impact something here? And then what is that impact? And then what is this impact? And then it becomes a domino effect. So you have to look at the organization as a whole.
And having that up front is helpful because it helps you overall. Let's say you're doing a product launch. If you're able to have those discussions with you and one other person or you and your team, having those, how does this impact the workflow of this launch, will help you in the long run, because if something goes haywire in the midst of that launch, you have already mitigated for some of those plans. You've already talked it through. It's literally like a game plan. So you mentioned the quarterback, like you're talking about the plays and the coach and all that stuff. So you're able to actually figure out what that actually looks like.
Yeah.
So hopefully we didn't scare a lot of people off, because we talked a lot of great organization
a lot of technical stuff. And so just for the audience,
Yeah, this is like top 2, top 3 like takeaways from organization operations.
Top 2 takeaways for operations. 2 things that are most critical that you want to do. That is, make sure you take a systems thinking view. If you want to learn more about what systems thinking is, there's an article on my blog that explains exactly what it is. You can check it out. Make sure you look at the whole picture. And then second, make sure you have your workflows organized and you have those checkpoints in place so that if something goes wrong, there's something that triggers you so that you're notified, or whoever is responsible for that act is notified. So you don't have, like I did today, had a site that was down. I don't know how long it had been down, but those are 2 things you want to do, because you want to make sure that you're always communicating with your clients, you're always communicating with your customers, that you're serving their needs and you never leave them lacking. So that would be the 2 things that I would say would be most important.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
One thing that's come up in the midst of this pandemic is that people have been getting retrained, going into different careers, really making a pivot in the midst of a pandemic.
The advice I would offer to any young person that has started on a path, their pool, or they see some interest somewhere else, I would tell them, do not turn your back on that. I started off as a receptionist, $7.50 an hour. And I don't make $7.50 an hour now.
Hey, let's check out this park. Oh, wow, that's really cool. To find a great local park or forest near you, go to discovertheforest.org.
We talked about all the great things that you do at your job in consulting.
Yeah.
And help other businesses be great. Let's talk about the other businesses that you have. You have this lovely book that's on the table.
That's my baby. She is my baby.
Let's talk about what you do outside of your 9 to 5, because you're balancing, like you said, a lot of different things, and you're going into your passions. You're able to actually be creative. So what does that look like? What do you do outside of consulting?
I've tapped into this creativity that I didn't even know existed within me. And it has me excited to a level that I can't even put into words. But recently I published Blind Justice. It's a romantic crime story, tells the story of a criminal defense attorney who, in the midst of litigating an attempted murder trial, falls in love with the brother of the defendant.
That's spicy.
Spicy, a little complex plot there. But it's a joy. It's a joy to turn the page. So that creativity is something that I am finding myself loving more and more and more. And my audience, through feedback that I've gathered, whether it's on Barnes and Nobles or Amazon, people want more. And so, yeah, it's like, what is happening with Taylor? And it's like, okay, well, I guess I need to
get back in the lab.
Get back in.
Now, just one thing I do want to mention about this. You are a self-published author.
I am a self-published author.
And writing was on your bucket list to do, and you did that.
It was not.
It was not.
That's why I say I tapped into creativity that I didn't know I had.
Wow.
The book was not on my bucket list.
Wow.
No. Yeah.
And released it this year, correct?
I released it in March.
And here we are with a full self-published book, tapping into your creativity.
Yes.
Would you say that this creativity spark came from anything from the pandemic, where you realized you were able to tap into something? What made you go this route?
No, I started journaling several years ago, and that sparked, I think that sparked some writing potential in me. And I've always been an avid reader. So I read all the time. There was this mobile unit in my hometown when I was growing up. It's called the Bookmobile. I lived on that thing. And so I've always read. So I always had a joy for reading. Through journaling, I started writing. And I had a chapter. First, it was just, I wrote a short story. And I just was like, oh, everybody liked it. And so I just put it aside, tucked it away. I still haven't released the short story. It's tucked away. I have not exposed it to the world yet. But through that, I started writing the book. And I had 2 friends who read a couple of chapters that I had written. And they were like, you should do something with this. And I was like, nah, it's just therapy. That's what it was for me. It was therapy.
Yeah.
And I kept writing. And the next thing you know, I had a manuscript. And
here we are.
Here we are. I learned through all that. We're talking about entrepreneurship earlier. I learned how to. I literally had to establish myself as a publishing company.
Yep.
In order to self-publish, and so now I'm finding myself helping others who want to self-publish. To set up those checklists, those checks and balances. What do I do? What do I not do?
Yeah.
I actually created an outline. I keep saying I'm going to share it through my newsletter. I probably will eventually. But I've gotten so many questions about, hey, you set up your publishing company. What did you do? How did you do it?
Steps, yep.
And so it'd be a good guide to share back on how to do that. But yeah, now I'm officially a publisher.
I love that.
Not only a writer, but a publisher as well. So yeah, Blind Justice is my baby. She's fun.
What I love about that is you tapped into a space that, really sparked the creativity side. I want to continue to marry on that, or marinate on that, because it's important that you also have a 9 to 5.
I do.
And a lot of people have this passion or creativity spark that they want to actually tap into, but they're just like, I don't have time. I can't hold myself accountable. I have a million other things to work on. How can I do this? But you were able to do that, nestle in some time in between work and working with $1 million projects with your consulting company, and still build something that's fruitful and also able to give back to other people in terms of, here are the steps to actually get you there. So I think that's really important, that those that are watching and those that are listening, that it doesn't have to end at your 9 to 5.
It does not have to end.
If
It
you
takes
have that
discipline.
yeah, that's the piece. Yes.
Discipline, self-discipline,
Yes.
and accountability to yourself.
Yes.
I write mainly on the weekends. For whatever reason, writing for me comes naturally at night. I start writing late in the evenings, like 4 or 5 o'clock, and I'll just write through the night. I'll look up and the sun will be coming up.
Wow.
And so we make the time for the things we love.
Yes.
And so I just say, find out what it is you love, and you won't have to have someone tell you, make their time for it. It'll naturally come. So I make the time for it. You're right. I work consulting. I work a consulting role. I travel globally with my role. And so time is not something I have a lot of, but you tend to balance it, right? I would write on the plane. I would write in the airports. You know, flying to Australia, that's 20 some hours. So
Oh yeah, you got plenty of time.
I have plenty of time there, you know, and I don't sleep on the plane. So
Yeah.
most of the time I just write on the plane, but you find the time to do the things that you enjoy.
Yes. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that.
So
So what else do you have going on, Deatrice? Do you want to share any other great things coming out with more of the book or the consulting?
So yeah, I've started writing. So I was reading my reviews, and I think more than half of the reviews, I don't remember the numbers, but more than half of the reviews was asking the question, what happens to Taylor? What does she do? So the question there is, you know, does Taylor follow her heart, or does Taylor follow the law? And I sort of left it open for interpretation. And so I've now started writing the next installment, and we're going to talk about Taylor's collision with love and the law.
Wow.
And what magnitude that collision happens. So I've started writing that. I've also I talk about a couple of wines in the book. For people who know me, I'm a wine lover. It's one of my hobbies. And so I've started to try to monetize that hobby. That's the other thing. If you really want to monetize things, find your hobbies, figure out a way to monetize your hobbies, and you will never work another day in your life. Not for anybody else anyway.
Yes, I love that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So I started studying more recently. This last year, I joined a wine club, and the more we tapped into wine and we tried different wines, I wanted to study wine more, not just drinking it. You know, the process. How
The
do we
true
make
history,
it?
the process,
The history. How does it all happen? You know, from one little small thing called a grape, I get a beautiful glass of wine. How does that happen?
Yes.
And so I started my studying, and now I'm studying regions and learning the different regions. Right now I'm focused on the Loire Valley in France, and bubbly is my favorites. My favorites change from time to time. So right now my bubbly
Might
is
be
the favorite.
seasonal, you know?
And so yeah, I recently took my WSET exam. So I used to say I'm a self-proclaimed wine enthusiast. So now I have
You can
credentials.
officially say I'm a certified.
I have credentials now. So
Congratulations.
Thank you. So yeah, so there's more there. There's different levels. So I'm going to move to the next level. So that course starts soon. I'm going to take that. So those are the creative things that I'm tapping into.
Yes.
That was me. That was pure monetization of a hobby.
Yes.
The book I'm finding more and more joy in writing, and just the feedback that I get from readers about what they think, you know, and how they describe the characters, how they relate to the characters. And I'll just sit back and go, wow, I brought this person to life on paper.
It's
And
here.
now
Yeah.
it's real. You know, Taylor is real to somebody.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
So.
I'm so happy that you mentioned if there's a hobby that you actually have, it's a way to monetize that, figure that out, figure out what that looks like for you, because you won't work for
You will
the
never
others
work.
the day of your life. You'll be able to work for yourself and be more happy and
Yeah.
fulfilled. So I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, you know the saying people say, if you are doing what you love, you never work a day in your life.
Yes.
And that's the direction that I'm moving in. Now, and I will say, I love the work that I do in my 9 to 5. It's fulfilling to see when the light bulbs go off with my clients. So I'm not in a role where, you know, I'm unhappy at work or I don't like my job or anything. I love it. So for me, it's a balancing act. How do I balance? Basically, I have 3 different things going on, you know.
Yeah.
Two roles, 2 jobs that I say 2 jobs, 2 organizations that I'm trying to create under my own umbrella. And then I have a full-time, I say 9 to 5, but I work 12, 14 hours a day.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a whole
That's
other.
Yeah.
If we
You
had
understand it
48
from a
hours
project
in a
man.
day,
Yeah.
you would.
We would never
you
have
would
enough
be
time.
doing
So that's why I say you'll figure out the time when
Yeah.
you're doing things that you love. You'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. Any parting tips in terms of just overall what we discussed so far in terms of operations or following your hobbies? Anything final that you want to close out with?
What I will say is, I say follow your hobby because it's your story. Tell your own story, write your own story. Otherwise, you're sitting on the outside looking in, allowing somebody else to tell the story for you. Figure out what you love, monetize that, and have fun the rest of your life.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Deatrice. I so
Thank you for
appreciate you
having
being
me.
here. And when you said write your own story, I was like, literally, write your own story. Thank you guys for being here. I hope that you gain a breadth of knowledge today in terms of operations, on how to actually handle your business when it comes to your systems and automating. I know we talked about a lot on that section, but I hope it made sense for you. Reach out to Deatrice, reach out to myself when it comes to just getting some ideas,
Yes.
some tips around consulting. But also check out Blind Justice that we talked about from Deatrice, and we'll find out more about wine, clearly, because that's going to be
Yes.
exciting with the club
That's
and
going
all.
to be exciting.
But thank you guys. It's all about self-discipline, being able to monetize your hobbies and being able to understand and fulfill your operations within your business. Thank you for watching Boss Up, and I hope to see you again soon.